Imagine a city born from myth, destined to rule the known world. This is the story of Rome, a saga of ambition, power, and transformation that echoes through the millennia. Our journey begins not in the grandeur of the Colosseum, but in a small settlement on the banks of the Tiber River, a humble village that would one day become an empire. In the early days, around the 8th century BC, Rome was just one of many city-states on the Italian peninsula. Legend tells us it was founded by Romulus and Remus, twin brothers suckled by a she-wolf. While the myth is captivating, the reality was a gradual coalescence of small villages atop 7 hills. These early Romans were farmers and shepherds, a hardy and practical people governed by kings. But the reign of kings would not last. The spirit of Rome was too proud, too independent. In 509 BC, the Romans overthrew their last king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, and a new era was born: the Roman Republic. The Republic was a radical idea for its time. Power was no longer in the hands of a single ruler, but was shared among the citizens. At its heart was the Senate, a council of elders from Rome's most influential families, the patricians. They met in the Curia, a grand building in the Roman Forum, the bustling heart of the city. Here, amidst the gleaming white marble of temples and basilicas, the fate of millions would be decided. Senators, draped in their white togas with a purple stripe, debated laws, appointed military commanders, and managed the state's finances. It was a system of checks and balances, designed to prevent any one man from gaining absolute power. The 2 most powerful officials were the consuls, elected annually, who commanded the army and presided over the Senate. This was the ideal of res publica, the public thing, the people's affair, and what a formidable people they were. The backbone of Rome's expansion was its legendary army. The Roman legionary was not just a soldier. He was a highly trained, disciplined, and resilient engineer of war. Organized into legions of nearly 5,000 men, these soldiers were a terrifyingly efficient force. Picture them marching in perfect unison, their hobnailed sandals, or caligae, thudding against the stone-paved roads they themselves built. Each man carried his own equipment: the iconic rectangular shield, the scutum, a short stabbing sword, the gladius, and 2 throwing spears, the pila. Their distinctive segmented armor, the lorica segmentata, offered excellent protection while allowing for flexibility. Discipline was brutal and training was relentless. This was the machine that would conquer the Mediterranean. Rome's initial expansion was a struggle for survival, a centuries-long fight to dominate the Italian peninsula. They battled their Latin neighbors, the mysterious Etruscans, to the north, and the rugged Samnites in the mountains. But Rome's greatest early challenge came from across the sea, from the mighty maritime empire of Carthage. The Punic Wars were a series of 3 epic conflicts that would decide the fate of the Mediterranean. The most famous chapter of this rivalry belongs to one of history's greatest military geniuses, Hannibal Barca. In 218 BC, Hannibal achieved the unthinkable. He marched an army, complete with war elephants, from Spain, across the Pyrenees and the treacherous Alps, and into Italy. These massive beasts, terrifying and unpredictable, Hannibal inflicted a series of devastating defeats upon the Romans, most famously at the Battle of Cannae, where his brilliant tactics annihilated a much larger Roman force. For over a decade, Hannibal rampaged through Italy, a constant threat at Rome's doorstep. Yet Rome refused to break. They adapted, learned, and endured. Ultimately, they took the fight to Africa, forcing Hannibal to return and defend his home city, where he was finally defeated at the Battle of Zama by Scipio Africanus. The Punic Wars ended with Carthage in ruins, and Rome as the undisputed master of the Western Mediterranean. With Carthage defeated, Rome's gaze turned east, towards the wealthy, sophisticated Hellenistic kingdoms of Greece and Asia Minor, the successor states of Alexander the Great's empire. One by one, they fell to the power of the legions. Macedonia, Greece, Syria, all were absorbed into Rome's ever-expanding domain. Roman generals returned to the city in glorious triumphs, parading their captives and vast treasures through the streets. This influx of wealth was staggering. It transformed Rome from a relatively austere city-state into a cosmopolitan metropolis. But this new wealth came at a cost. It created a vast gap between the super-rich, who owned enormous estates worked by legions of slaves, and the poor, landless citizens who flocked to the city in search of work. The old republican values of duty, discipline, and simplicity began to erode, replaced by luxury, greed, and political corruption. The system that had served Rome so well for centuries was beginning to strain under the weight of its own success. This turmoil gave rise to a new breed of Roman leader, powerful, ambitious generals who commanded the personal loyalty of their soldiers. Men like Marius and Sulla fought brutal civil wars for control of the state, their legions loyal not to the Senate, but to the man who paid them and promised them land. The Republic was tearing itself apart, and into this chaotic, violent world stepped a man whose name would become synonymous with Roman power: Gaius Julius Caesar. Caesar was a brilliant politician, a masterful orator, and a military genius of the highest order. A patrician from an old, but not particularly wealthy family, he climbed the political ladder, the cursus honorum, with ruthless ambition. His defining moment was the conquest of Gaul, modern-day France. For 8 years he campaigned against the Celtic tribes, pushing the boundaries of the Roman world to the English Channel and the Rhine River. His commentaries on the Gallic War is a simple take on his battles, were in fact a masterpiece of political propaganda designed to keep his name on everyone's lips back in Rome. His victories made him immensely popular with the people and incredibly wealthy, and his legions were fanatically loyal to him. The Senate, led by his rival Pompey the Great, grew fearful of his power. They ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar knew that to do so would mean political ruin and likely death. He was faced with a choice. On a fateful day in 49 BC, he reached a small river called the Rubicon, the border between his province and Italy proper. To cross it with his army would be an act of treason, a declaration of war against his own country. According to the historian Suetonius, Caesar hesitated, then uttered the famous words, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast. He crossed the Rubicon, plunging the Republic into another devastating civil war. The war that followed was swift. Caesar's lightning campaigns saw him defeat Pompey and his senatorial allies in battles across the Mediterranean, from Spain to Egypt. In Egypt, he famously dallied with the young queen, Cleopatra, fathering a son with her and securing her throne. He returned to Rome not just as a triumphant general, but as the undisputed master of the Roman world. He was declared dictator, first for 10 years, and then for life. He initiated a vast program of reforms, revising the calendar, settling his veterans on land, and launching massive public building projects. To many, he was a hero, a man who had ended the chaos of the civil wars and brought stability. But to the old guard of the Senate, he was a tyrant who had destroyed the Republic. Their fears culminated on the Ides of March, March 15th, 44th BC. As Caesar entered a meeting of the Senate held at the theater of Pompey, a group of senators, calling themselves the Liberators, surrounded him. Led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, they drew hidden daggers and stabbed him to death at the foot of his rival Pompey's statue. They believed they had saved the Republic. They were wrong. Caesar's assassination did not restore the Republic. It unleashed another 13 years of bloody civil war. The power vacuum he left was filled by his grandnephew and adopted heir, a clever and ruthless young man named Octavian, and Caesar's most trusted general, Mark Antony. Initially allies, they hunted down and defeated Caesar's assassins. But their alliance soon crumbled into a bitter rivalry for supreme power, a rivalry complicated by Antony's love affair with Cleopatra of Egypt. The final showdown came at the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC. Octavian's fleet, commanded by his brilliant general Agrippa, crushed the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra. The lovers fled back to Egypt. It's really heartbreaking to think they both decided to end their lives, ending the last of the Hellenistic kingdoms and leaving Octavian as the sole ruler of the Roman world. Octavian returned to Rome, but he had learned from Caesar's fate. He knew that Romans would never again accept an overt king or dictator. so he masterfully disguised his absolute power behind the facade of the restored republic. He took the title Princeps, meaning first citizen, and the honorary name Augustus, the revered one. The Senate still met, elections were still held, but everyone knew where the real power lay. This was the beginning of the Roman Empire and the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. 2 centuries of unprecedented stability and prosperity. The story of Rome's rise is more than just a sequence of battles and political intrigues. It's the story of how a small city-state, through a combination of military prowess, political innovation, and sheer tenacity, forged an empire that shaped the course of Western civilization. Its laws, its language, its architecture, and its ideas about governance continue to influence our world today. The Roman Republic's journey from a humble village to the master of the Mediterranean is a timeless epic of ambition, conflict, and transformation. Step into a world forged by iron, intellect, and ambition. Imagine standing in the heart of Rome, the capital of a civilization that would define the very course of Western history. This wasn't just a city, it was the epicenter of power, a sprawling metropolis of over 1 million souls, all drawn to the light of the eternal city. Look around. The air buzzes with a symphony of languages from every corner of the known world. Marble temples gleam under the Mediterranean sun, their columns reaching for the heavens, dedicated to gods who watched over the empire's fortunes. Aqueducts, those monumental triumphs of engineering, march across the landscape, carrying fresh water into the city's heart, feeding the ornate public baths where senators debated and citizens socialized. The Roman Forum, a vibrant chaos of commerce and politics, is where destinies were decided with a speech, a vote, or a secret pact. It was the nerve center of an empire stretching from the misty shores of Britain to the sun-scorched sands of Mesopotamia, and there, casting its colossal shadow over it all, is the Flavian Amphitheater, the Colosseum. Picture it packed to the rafters, a deafening roar from 50,000 spectators shaking its very foundations. Down on the sandy arena floor, gladiators, both celebrated heroes and condemned slaves, fight for their lives and for the crowd's savage adoration. Chariots race in the Circus Maximus, the thunder of hooves and the crack of the whip echoing the empire's own relentless forward momentum. This was Rome at its zenith, a spectacle of unparalleled power and grandeur. The empire's might was personified by its emperors. Men like Augustus, who found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble, ushering in the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of relative peace and stability. His face, immortalized in statues, projected an image of calm authority and divine favor. Then there was Trajan, the Optimus Princeps, the best ruler, under whom the empire reached its greatest territorial extent. Imagine him on his throne, not as a distant tyrant, but as a military commander and civic administrator, his decisions affecting millions. Visualize the intricate carvings of Trajan's column, a spiral narrative of his victories in Dacia, a testament to Roman discipline and military strategy. These weren't just men, they were living gods, their power absolute, their influence immeasurable. The engine of this vast dominion was the Roman legion. See them now, a river of steel and scarlet marching in perfect unison. Each legionary was a professional soldier, a master of logistics, engineering, and brutal combat. They built roads that stitched the empire together, fortresses that held the frontiers, and walls like Hadrian's, a stark line drawn against the barbarian world. On the battlefield, they were an unstoppable force. Picture the chaos of the Teutoburg forest, a devastating ambush, but also witness their resilience, their ability to rebound and reassert control. The eagle standard, the aquila, was more than a banner. It was a sacred symbol of Roman honor to be defended to the last man. But empires, like all mortal things, are destined to fall. The seeds of decay were sown even at the height of Rome's power. The very size of the empire made it difficult to govern. Political instability became the norm. The 3rd century saw a crisis of epic proportions, with emperors rising and falling like dominoes, often assassinated by their own guards. The economy, once robust, began to falter under the weight of constant warfare, overtaxation, and reliance on slave labor. A plague swept through, decimating the population. The vibrant streets of Rome began to show cracks. Feel the shift. The once bright sun seems to dim. The confident swagger of the early empire gives way to a gnawing anxiety. The borders, once secure, are now porous. Barbarian tribes, the Goths, the Vandals, the Huns once held at bay, begin to press inward. They weren't just raiding anymore, they were migrating, driven by climate change and their own internal conflicts. Picture the dramatic scenes. Entire peoples crossing the frozen Danube, seeking refuge, but finding conflict. See the Visigoths, once Roman allies, turning against their masters, culminating in the shocking sack of Rome in 410 AD. For the first time in 800 years, the Eternal City was breached and looted. The psychological blow was immense. It was the beginning of the end. The empire split, east from west, a desperate attempt to manage the unmanageable. While the eastern half, Byzantium, would flourish for another 1,000 years, the Western Roman Empire entered its death throes. The images become darker, more chaotic. Cities shrink, their grand public buildings falling into disrepair. The intricate network of roads decays. Fields lie fallow. Warlords carve out their own kingdoms from the corpse of the empire. The final Roman emperors in the West are little more than puppets, their authority extending barely beyond the walls of their palaces in Ravenna. Then comes the final symbolic act. In 476 AD, the Germanic chieftain Odoacer deposes the last Western Roman emperor, a young boy ironically named Romulus Augustulus. There is no great battle, no epic last stand. It's a quiet, ignominious end. The fire of Rome, which had illuminated the world for centuries, is finally extinguished. Chaos and darkness seem to descend upon Europe. The Dark Ages begin. But was it truly an end? Or was it a transformation? The legacy of Rome is all around us. Its language, Latin, evolved into the Romance languages we speak today. Its laws form the bedrock of many modern legal systems. Its engineering principles, its architecture, its literature, and its philosophy were preserved, copied, and studied, eventually sparking the Renaissance. The Roman eagle may have fallen, but its shadow still stretches across the centuries. The story of its rise to unimaginable heights and its dramatic, fiery collapse serves as a timeless lesson in power, ambition, and the fragility of civilization. In the fading light of a once mighty empire, a new dawn was breaking in the east. This is the story of Rome reborn, a story of faith, power, and a city that would stand at the center of the world for over 1,000 years. This is the story of the Byzantine Empire. Our journey begins with one man, Constantine the Great. In the early 4th century, the Roman Empire was a sprawling, chaotic entity, torn apart by civil wars and internal strife. Constantine, a brilliant general and a shrewd politician, rose through the ranks. In a pivotal moment at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, he looked to the sky and saw a vision, a symbol of a new faith that would forever alter the course of history. With the words, "In this sign you will conquer," Constantine not only secured victory, but also embraced Christianity, setting the stage for a spiritual revolution across the empire. Rome, the ancient heart of the empire, was losing its luster. It was too far from the troubled frontiers, too steeped in old pagan traditions. Constantine envisioned a new capital, a new Rome. He chose a strategically brilliant location, the ancient Greek city of Byzantium. Perched on a peninsula at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, controlling the vital Bosphorus Strait, it was a natural fortress and a commercial hub. In 330 AD, after a monumental construction effort, the city was dedicated and renamed Constantinople, the city of Constantine. Imagine the scene. Gleaming marble streets, grand forums, towering aqueducts, and magnificent imperial palaces reflecting the golden sun. This wasn't just a new city, it was the physical embodiment of a new Christian Roman Empire. The spirit of this new empire was forged in both piety and steel. The Byzantine soldiers, heirs to the Roman legions, were a formidable force. Clad in intricate lamellar armor, Wielding spears and swords, they were the shield of Christendom for centuries. From the disciplined ranks of the cataphracts, heavily armored cavalry that thundered across the battlefield, to the elite Varangian Guard, loyal protectors of the emperor, the Byzantine army was a marvel of organization and tactics. They defended the vast borders against countless foes, from the Sasanian Persians to the migrating Goths and Huns, ensuring the survival of the empire in a world of constant conflict. But the true soul of Byzantium was found within its churches. As the empire embraced Christianity, a new art form emerged, one that sought to capture the divine. Early Christian imagery gave way to the iconic Byzantine style. Step inside a church like the Hagia Sophia, and you are transported. The walls and domes shimmer with mosaics, millions of tiny pieces of glass and gold that create breathtaking scenes of saints, angels, and Christ Pantocrator, the ruler of all. This wasn't just decoration, it was theology, in color and light. The glowing gold backgrounds weren't meant to depict a natural sky, but the very essence of heaven, an eternal, divine space. This bright, majestic, and otherworldly art was designed to awe the viewer, to lift their soul from the mundane, and give them a glimpse of the sacred. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled and fell in the 5th century, the Eastern Empire not only survived, but thrived. It preserved the invaluable knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome, philosophy, science, literature, and law, acting as a vital library for civilization. While Western Europe entered what many call the Dark Ages, Constantinople shone as a beacon of culture, learning, and sophistication. Its markets bustled with merchants from across the known world, its universities debated complex theology and ancient philosophy, and its artisans produced silks and ivories of unparalleled beauty. This cultural transformation was profound. The empire, while calling itself Roman, became distinctly Greek in language and culture. Yet, it was something entirely new, a unique fusion of Roman statecraft, Greek intellectualism, and Christian faith. This synthesis created a civilization that was both deeply traditional and remarkably innovative. The early Byzantine Empire laid the foundations for a civilization that would endure for a millennium. It was a world of powerful emperors, disciplined soldiers, and devout artists. It was a bridge between the ancient and modern worlds, a guardian of classical wisdom and a crucible for Christian culture. In its glittering mosaics and marble streets, we see the birth of a legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us to this day. The story of the Eastern Roman Empire is a testament to resilience, faith, and the enduring power of a city built to be the center of the world. A beacon of civilization that shone for over 1,000 years. This is the story of Byzantium, the Eastern Roman Empire, a realm of gold, faith, and fire. Our journey begins not in Rome, but in a new capital, Constantinople, a city destined for greatness, founded by Emperor Constantine himself. But it is under the reign of another emperor, Justinian I, that Byzantium truly reaches its zenith. Imagine Justinian, a man of humble origins who rose to become one of history's most influential rulers. Driven by an unyielding ambition to restore the glory of Rome, he didn't just dream, he acted. Alongside his brilliant and powerful wife, Empress Theodora, he reshaped the empire. His generals, like the legendary Belisarius, marched across North Africa and Italy, reclaiming lands that were once Roman. The Mediterranean, for a fleeting moment, once again became a Roman lake. But Justinian's legacy wasn't just forged in war. He was a builder, a lawgiver. Look upon the awe-inspiring Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom. Picture its massive dome, seeming to float on a cascade of light, an architectural marvel that has captivated the world for centuries. This wasn't just a building, it was a statement of faith, power, and engineering genius. Inside, intricate mosaics of gold and precious stones depicted saints and emperors, their divine right shimmering for all to see. Justinian also commissioned the Corpus Juris Civilis, a codification of Roman law that would become the foundation for legal systems across Europe for centuries to come. His reign was a golden age, a symphony of military conquest, artistic splendor, and legal reform. Step inside the opulent world of the Byzantine imperial court. Visualize the Great Palace of Constantinople, a sprawling complex of halls, churches, and gardens. Here, ceremony was everything. The emperor, seen as God's regent on earth, was a figure of immense reverence. He would sit on a golden throne, adorned in robes of Tyrian purple, a color reserved exclusively for royalty. Foreign envoys would be dazzled by mechanical lions that roared and golden birds that sang, all designed to project an image of unparalleled power and wealth. The air would be thick with the scent of incense, the halls echoing with the chants of the court choir. This was theater on a grand scale, a carefully orchestrated performance to reinforce the emperor's divine status. But Byzantium's brilliance was constantly threatened. To the east, a formidable rival emerged, the Sasanian Persian Empire. For centuries, these two superpowers clashed in a series of grueling wars. Imagine legions of heavily armored Byzantine cataphracts charging across the deserts of Syria and Mesopotamia, their lances poised against Persian elephants and cavalry. These were not mere border skirmishes. They were epic struggles for dominance, draining both empires of treasure and manpower. Cities were besieged, territories were exchanged, and truces were broken. This long, bitter rivalry left both empires vulnerable, paving the way for a new, unexpected force that would change the course of history forever. From the sands of Arabia, a new power arose, united by faith and ambition. The early Islamic caliphates expanded with breathtaking speed, and the Byzantine Empire found itself in a fight for its very survival. The provinces of Syria, Egypt, and North Africa, the breadbasket and heartland of the early empire, were lost. The struggle was relentless, fought on land and at sea. Yet Byzantium adapted. It had a secret weapon: Greek fire. Picture Byzantine ships, called dromons, unleashing this terrifying incendiary weapon upon enemy fleets. It was a liquid fire that could burn on water, a closely guarded state secret that gave the Byzantine navy a crucial edge for centuries. It was a symbol of their resilience, their ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The empire, though smaller, became more consolidated, more Greek in its character, defending its Anatolian heartland with fierce determination. For centuries, Constantinople stood as an impregnable fortress. Its legendary Theodosian walls, a triple line of defense stretching for miles, had repelled countless sieges. Huns, Avars, Arabs, and Rus had all tried and failed to breach its defenses. The city was the queen of cities, the envy of the world, a bastion of Christianity and classical knowledge. While Western Europe was fragmented in the Dark Ages, Constantinople preserved the texts of ancient Greece and Rome, keeping the flame of learning alive. But time erodes all things, and the empire's strength began to wane. Internal strife, civil wars, and the disastrous Fourth Crusade in 1204, where Western knights sacked their fellow Christian city, left Byzantium a shadow of its former self. The empire was fractured, its spirit broken, its wealth plundered. Though it would eventually reclaim its capital, it was a hollow victory. The empire was now a small, vulnerable state, surrounded by powerful enemies. And then came the final challenge, the Ottoman Turks, a rising power led by a young and utterly determined sultan, Mehmed II. He was obsessed with one goal: to conquer Constantinople. He saw it as a win and a sign. To achieve his dream, he assembled a massive army and commissioned the largest cannons the world had ever seen. The year is 1453. The final siege of Constantinople begins. Imagine the scene. The thunderous roar of Mehmed's great bombards pounding the ancient walls day and night. The desperate defense led by the last Byzantine emperor, Constantine Palaiologos, fighting alongside his people. Greeks and Genoese mercenaries standing shoulder to shoulder. The air is filled with smoke, the clash of steel, the cries of the wounded, and the prayers of a city facing its doom. For 53 days, the city holds out, a testament to the courage of its defenders and the strength of its walls. But the odds are insurmountable. On May 29th, the final assault begins. Ottoman troops pour through a breach in the walls. The emperor, casting aside his purple regalia, plunges into the fray, fighting and dying with his soldiers. he disappears into the chaos, becoming a legend of heroic last stands. The fall of Constantinople was an event that shook the world. It marked the end of the Roman Empire, a continuous line stretching back to Augustus. It was the end of a 1,000-year-old civilization. But from its ashes, a new world would be born. Scholars fleeing the city would carry its precious knowledge to Italy, helping to fuel the Renaissance. The event itself would spur European explorers to seek new sea routes to the east, inadvertently leading to the Age of Discovery. The story of Byzantium is a story of incredible highs and devastating lows. It's a saga of faith, ambition, betrayal, and survival. An empire of golden mosaics and Greek fire, of philosopher emperors and impregnable walls. Though its walls may have fallen, its legacy endures in our laws, our art, our architecture, and our religion. The Eagle of Rome may have taken its final flight, but its shadow still stretches across the centuries. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey through the Roman and the Byzantine empires. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the pages of history. We have many more stories from history to share with you. Until next time, keep exploring.